The dawn hours of early September may come later in the morning, but here in the city of Durango, most of its denizens are still asleep. But some, like Mike May and John Walden, guide the Durango and Silverton's biggest locomotive, K-37 number 493, into the past of an alternate reality. In the timeline in which we exist, though, until 1981, no locomotive bigger than the 470's ever squeezed through the Rockwood cut, nor tiptoed over the high span at Tacoma. But for the next 2 days, we'll ride behind 493 on the point of the Silverton Mixed. This trip, organized by the late Jim Wren, editor of Trains magazine, was originally scheduled for 2020 after the locomotive had re-entered service for the first time after being set aside by the Rio Grande in 1968. We're taken into a reality where the biggest locomotives operated on the Silverton branch were not the sleek sport model 470s, but the burly big 490s. Near daybreak, we partake in the first run by at Elbert Creek, high above Shalona Lake and just below Rockwood. This stretch of track is the final portion of Hermosa Hill, a grueling 2 1/2% slog from the valley below, some 6 miles behind. Departing Rockwood, we venture out onto the High Line, our first piece of trackage that would have been foreign to this type of locomotive before 1981. Following on the drawbar of the 493 is a mixed train built of a 6500 series flat car, a 3000 series boxcar, 2 drop-bottom gondolas, and a 6600 series flat car with a 1929 Model A on top. Concession car 566, originally built as a railway post office, San Juan coach number 319, coach 257, and finally bringing up the rear, caboose 0540. Once finished navigating the narrow ledges of the High Line, the train heads out onto the Tacoma High Bridge. This span was another key piece of right-of-way that would need to be modified in order to accommodate the large locomotives that rule the Silverton today. Further up the line, we're looking down towards the High Bridge as 493 comes back to river level at Tacoma. We're spotted on the truss bridge that carries workers and supplies to this historic remote hydroelectric power station. We're now approximately halfway between Durango and Silverton as we cross the Animas on the Truss Bridge at Teft. In this direction, we're now treated to a new run-by spot as fire mitigation along the right-of-way has opened up this view. The nearby Cascade Y would also provide a place for our train to clear to allow train 461, the first Silverton train, pulled by an Alco DL535E, a former White Pass and Yukon diesel, to pass. Further upriver, at Bubbling Rock, near milepost 480, spring water percolates from the canyon walls, forming the backdrop here. Below Needleton, we climb above the tracks and the Animus to watch Train 463, the second Silverton train pulled by K-36 number 480. To help with the extra tonnage on the drawbar, Southern Pacific 10-wheeler number 18, on loan from the Carson, Colorado Railway in the Owens Valley of California, is on the point as the helper engine. The Slim Princess, as it is known, will run the next day in tandem with the 493, pulling the freight section of today's photo special. Once the regular train has cleared Needleton, the 493 backs to us, where we catch it performing another run-by before we load up and head to get some water for the 493. We take on some water at the Needleton tank before a struggle up a 2.5 grade. The 493 is drinking from the modern tank cistern put here in the 1960s by the Rio Grande to replace the wooden tank around the corner. While it's easy to pin down a construction date for most of the Denver and Rio Grande Western's locomotives, such as a K-28 in 1923 or a K-36 in 1925, dating a 490 is dependent on whom you ask. Built in 1902 as what would eventually become the Rio Grande's C-41 class, the 493 started life from the Baldwin factory floor as Denver and Rio Grande number 1121 and eventually became DNRGW number 1021. This 280 was built as a standard gauge freight locomotive, but just 25 years later was eclipsed by the new locomotives constructed just before the superpower era. With a surplus of standard gauge consolidations and a need to procure more of the large narrow gauge locomotives without breaking the bank, the Grand created the K-37 class, numbered 490 to 499. Having balked at the price of more new K-36's from Baldwin, the railroad sought out a local foundry in Denver, nearly replicating the frames from the new Baldwins. The railroad then removed the boilers from the obsolete consolidations and placed them atop these frames. The tender frames and cisterns were reused, with the standard gauge trucks even modified to fit the narrow gauge by merely pushing the wheels further onto the axles. The locomotives then received a new coat of paint, which included green jacketing, aluminum lettering, and a tricolored herald on the tender. Once again, we duck into the hole to clear from conflicting movements, this time at Elk Park Siding. We'll end up holding here for both trains 462 and 464 on their southbound journeys to Durango. With the last southbound cleared, we head up to Whitehead Gulch. High on the talus slopes gives us an excellent vantage of the river, railroad, and the Needle Mountains. We hop aboard the cab of 493 from Whitehead Gulch to the mouth of Baker's Park. We join engineer Mike May and fireman John Walden as they take us for this final stretch. canyon opens up into Baker's Park, and the railroad crosses the Rio de los Animas for its fifth and final time. This bridge, as of 2023, is scheduled for replacement and demolition, but we cross it here intact in 2021. We depart Silverton the next morning after awaiting the sun to clear the mountains. The train has been split with SP-18 taking charge of the freight portion of the consist. For more with the 18 on this journey, check out our video, The Slim Princess in the Rockies, on this channel. Behind the 18 is the 493, now with an all-passenger consist, one car longer now that we have picked up coach 337, an all-steel coach built by the Rio Grande, brand new at its Burnham shops in 1964. We're back at Elk Park once more as we squeeze into the siding with the 493 while the 18 clears on the Y to allow diesel-hauled train 461 and steam-powered 463 to parade north. Scrambling up the hillside gives us a great vantage point as the burbling Alco rolls past as Mount Garfield looms over the canyon. Later on, train 462, led by K-36's 480, thunders up the gorge solo. Once both northward trains have cleared Elk Park, the 493 pulls out of the siding and we are once again headed towards Durango. Just south of the Y, we cross over the Animas at Twin Bridges as we cross on the new bridge installed here in 1964. After Twin Bridges, we're back down to milepost 480.5 as we pass through the Goblin Fire Scar. This location, which is now open to the sky, provides a beautiful view of the Needle Mountains. Two miles down the rails, we climb up the old Animas toll road grade that provides a sweeping look up the canyon. Having cleared Cascade to allow train 462 to pass, we race to Tacoma afterwards, where we link up again with the freight cars left by the SP-18. Using the siding tracks, the mixed train is reassembled and tucked into the siding.
Will you line that switch normal once we go back?
Soon after clearing and all the switching is done, train 464, pulled by 480, roars past us. Free of any more conflicting movements, 493 heads out of the Tacoma siding for points south. We find ourselves on the High Line as 493 takes its train along the only upgrade portion of the southward journey. We're rounding the famed Horseshoe Curve as part of the last official run-by. Back in Rockwood, the charter is officially over as all the passengers disembark and the train is run just outside the Rockwood Cut, where it heads past us one last time on its way back to Durango as we wrap up this look into what if the Denver and Rio Grande Western had ran the 490s up to Silverton. You're still here? Go home. It's over. No, wait. Okay, so you're already home. Make sure you click like and subscribe. Check out one of these other videos up here. And yeah, do it for Zephyr, huh? Say hi to the people, Zephyr. They love you, huh? Yeah? Can you say hi? No? Okay.